लेकिन वो एग्जाम इंग्लिश में नहीं कर सकता।
Yes.
तो उसके लिए क्या फैसिलिटी?
That's not a problem. If a person wants to do doesn't understand English and wants to do the exam, we can organize the exam in any language. We can accommodate for most languages except for Chinese. That is access to a Chinese translator. But most languages we can accommodate for. So no problem at all.
I had a question just about the organisation. Obviously, you're saying that it's going to get passed down to like a group of people, or if like the mosque or commitment or whoever wants to
participate. Yeah.
Do you know who will be doing it in Middlesbrough? Have you spoken to anyone?
Well, the sort of campaign has been initiated by a few brothers, amongst who are brother Ihtisham Sahib and Shahzad Sahib. So ultimately, we're, it doesn't matter to us how many are in that group or how little, and who's president and who's khazanchi. We're not interested in that. We're interested in a group of people who we can work with and who can, make this course as efficient as possible for your purposes. Naturally, on a Tuesday evening when you come, a lot of you would have had your supper by then. There will be tea and coffee facilities here. So after the first lecture, there will be a short break, and then you'll have the other. All of this requires organisation. The setting up of the equipment, again, this requires organisation. That is something that we can't do. That is something that the local committee as such will do.
Whoever wants to.
Whoever wants to, they can participate in that. There's no membership form.
Is there no affiliation that you can have with the university, or?
Sorry?
Is there no affiliation you can have with the university?
We would love to have affiliation with the university, and if it's delivered at the university, ever so better. Remember, we want to attract diversity, whether that means different groups of Muslims, even non-Muslims. Most welcome, because we are so confident with what we're delivering, to be delivered in a balanced way, that we know that even if a non-Muslim was to sit there, they would feel comfortable. They would be, because it's delivered in hopefully plain English, which is a good start, perhaps not with the tint and accent which you have locally, but certainly someone who has no knowledge of Islam will be comfortable to sit there and to follow. So we don't mind that.
It's just like, for example, we've all got like those commitments.
He's referring to you. You don't own something,
I was saying, it's just because many of us have like different commitments. Like many of us have different commitments. So I know, like my brother, for example, like I know he won't be able to organise it all, run it all.
Sure.
Certain people.
Yeah.
So
I think what you can do at the end,
that the guys in the room today who wish to get together and say, right, I wouldn't mind being part of a sort of committee per se, to say organise this for the next 2, even 6 years.
Sure.
So that's, I think, probably best if we got a group of people that were ready to help.
I think at the end you can get together.
We could do that at the end, I think, what we'll do.
That's something which is local.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You're saying that, it doesn't involve the institute as yourself in this for the cost. But the problem is the cost. So you can't run away from that saying that it's nothing to do with us. People can look at it, sort it out, and take it from there.
The problem is, if we were, business orientated, we would have a cost structure and how to implement it. Our forte is education. We're good at what we're doing. Your locals, you know your locals. Whether they're going to cough up individually or whether you're going to get sponsors, we don't know.
I went on your website and I've seen the costs are there. And if we tell or if we put this on the notice board, how much it is, rather than having form a group here and this is what's going to be costing.
That's fine. It's your decision.
Why don't we just check that?
In Manchester, this course was taught. We taught this in Manchester for 8 years, and we charged an annual cost. No problem. People paid. No one ever said that, I didn't get my money's worth. There was no problem. But you see, experience has shown us if you offer it free, people don't necessarily appreciate it because they think, oh, well, it's free. In fact, in a few years, in the previous few years, we had some people who sponsored certain students who couldn't afford to pay. Fine. But we found that those students weren't as committed to those students who we paid. We don't mind whether you, as a committee, charge individual students or whether you get sponsors. This is your decision. It all depends on you.
So my understanding to this is that you set standard charge for the courses, whichever you deliver.
Yes.
And with that, the students, whichever they actually, or whoever wants to enroll,
Yeah.
so automatically it's the people who have organized this with you here. That's between you and them, nothing to do with the student. Am I right?
Yeah. So we won't go knocking on people's door debt collecting or sending the boys around, as they say. We will simply be interested in the delivery application. We have a set budget as to what the costings are. Naturally, equipment does cost, and that cost will have to be borne locally. We can't, of course, afford to bear that cost ourselves. That cost would be borne. Like, for example, one mosque in London, they said, we'll fork out the equipment ourselves, but then that equipment will belong to the mosque. Fine, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, these are all logistical issues which are best dealt with by the managing committee who liaise with us in these
Well, the
respects.
reason I'm asking that is because, you know, if you give a lecture and you say, well, you charge this much for the lecture, right? For instance, 4 times, 2 times, whatever, right? So you charge that, right? But the thing is, if there's 50 people in the room, right? And the committee decides, well, we'll charge £10 a head, you know, for argument's sake, for that particular night. So the cost obviously cut down rather than charging individually, right? £700 or £800. You know, I mean, that's something to look at.
I think it would be an administrative headache to have everyone come in with £10 every session. Because then it will be a clock in, clock out session. It's, experience shows that if you, I'm not saying this is how it has to be done. Experience has showed us that in Manchester, when we've done it, we've just charged students one fee, whether they attend or whether they miss, irrespective. Because the thing is still being known. So, you know, the cost is still there. Like having ISDN lines, you have to have a monthly sort of budget for that. Yeah. So, yes.
We've got a start date or when the cost
Mid-October. Mid to end of October.
running till July.
Running till July, end of July, yeah. That is almost identical to the academic year. There is a Christmas break and Easter break, but generally...
So is that's the 1 year for...
That's 1 year. Yeah. October to July, yes.
Does this take effect? Will it be just the one room?
No, exactly like this. Like you have a massive... I would hope the screen